Welcome to Coffee, Culture, and the Capital with Sophia and Greg. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today is Monday, December 2nd, which means the California legislators are back at the California State Capitol. We just watched both the Assembly and Senate have their session. We watched them be sworn in. But there's also more than just the new people being sworn in and celebrating that. There was a lot that happened. Each of them probably lasted about 2 hours long. The Senate ended before the Assembly did. But today, I think, was a taste of what we're going to see in 2025 at the state capitol. They're already talking about bill ideas, already introducing some legislation. And so we are going to walk you all through that. And as we walk you all through that, and what's to come, I just want to remind you, if you are like, I want to get involved this year, I want to pay attention to legislation, I want to make phone calls to my legislators, go to californiafamily.org, sign up for our newsletter. The second bills are being introduced, hearings begin, we're going to start sending you the weekly email update. We're going to send you email updates about what your legislator is doing, if they did something that was wrong, if they did something that was good, whether you need to call their office and say vote no, vote yes. We're going to put all that out. Sign up for the newsletter. The second thing is, if you go to californiafamily.org, you can also see our webinar page. About a year and a half ago, we recorded a webinar all about how the California legislature works. Go watch that webinar. It's an hour long. You are going to hear from former State Senator Melissa Melendez. You are going to hear from Penny Harrington, and she's done a phenomenal job tracking legislation in California. You're going to hear from Greg. You're going to hear from Jonathan Keller, the president of California Family Council, but it is going to equip you to be ready for January. You are going to be taught the basics. I know sometimes as adults, you don't want to ask the question, wait, how does a bill become a law again? Or how do these things happen? We walk through the basics of how the Capitol works, how legislation works. So definitely go check that out. But for now, Greg, they were back today in session. What was your and we'll dive into all the details, but what was your first impression of just hearing what they had to say, and what are you thinking that's going to like going into 2025?
Yeah, it's it's kind of a celebration, sort of a day, folks. A third of the legislature is changing, so that's a lot of new people. A lot of new people who don't have staff, they don't have offices, and so they're bringing all their relatives up. They feel it's not. Usually you can go over in the gallery and watch, but they usually reserve it for family and lobbyists and friends who help get those folks elected. And so it's kind of packed. So we kind of watch online what's happening. I think just to let you know, the California legislature is still dominated by Democrats. They did pick up one Republican seat, maybe two. One of the seats in the assembly was actually vacated by Assemblyman Vince Fong, because he also ran for Congress at the same exact time, and so he went to Congress, and so but that's a very Republican district, which it means right now we have 19 Republicans and 60 Democrats. We could have 20. When I first came to the legislature 10 years ago, there were about 29, 28 Republicans, and so that's how it's changed over the years. And then the Senate actually picked up one Republican. They were at 8, and now they're at 9, but that's out of 40. So it's very dominated by one side. So a lot of pomp and circumstance. Everybody raises their hands. They actually pray. I watched the Assembly prayer, which was pretty good. A new Democrat lady I had not seen before said the prayer. And so everybody's bowing their heads and they're praying, ask God for wisdom and asking him to guide their steps. So, I suppose that's a good start. And then the Senate, they gave speeches, they reelected, both sides reelected their leadership. And so Assemblyman, his name is Robert Rivas. He was actually the Assembly Speaker before. He was elected last year, I believe, and now he was reelected for this next session. And then in the Senate, their leadership, they called their leader a Senate pro tem, and his name is Mike McGuire. And so he was reelected, and they both give speeches, and they lay out their agendas. And of course, it was interesting to hear about, we're going to fight for more affordability. I think everybody believes that California is too expensive to live here, and lots of people are leaving because of that issue. And so they're trying to say we're going to do something. But of course, on the social issues regarding abortion, they're doubling down. We are here making California a sanctuary for the country's abortions. They're not giving that up. So they made sure that they, and they always talk about it in the language of rights in healthcare, kind of ignoring the humanity of the little babies who are sacrificed, killed, murdered. Those little children are never mentioned. And then, of course, they talk about protecting folks who identify as LGBTQ. And what does that mean? Well, that means continuing funding the transition of children, medically sterilizing them with puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, funding the removal of their healthy body parts to make them look like the opposite sex, removing parental rights when kids are being secretly transitioned at school and keeping that secret from parents. That is what they mean by supporting LGBT folks. And so sadly, that destroys those folks, hurts and harms people. The ideology of LGBTQ is very harmful to kids and adults, and California is still all in that whole ideology, and they're not giving up. And they assume the Trump administration, who I think is true, is going to start turning against many of those aspects, whether it's boys and girls sports or protecting females' private spaces, bathrooms, locker rooms, and going against the medical transitioning of minors. So that was my initial reaction.
Yeah, it definitely, they showed their clear path of their plans for 2025. And I know we were talking about this earlier today, but they've already talked about and had a press conference about some abortion legislation, which it honestly blows my mind that they have even more things to do in regards to abortion. I mean, we saw in 2022 over a dozen pro-abortion bills signed into law. We had Proposition 1 put in our state constitution, allowing abortion up to the moment of birth for any reason in California. I mean, it is pure evil. And Christians, this was just something, as I was watching both the Assembly and Senate today and just hearing some of the opening speeches that Greg was talking about, it is so important to get in the Word right now and know what the Bible has to say about these things, know what as Christians we should stand for, because there's a lot of deceit happening. And Greg mentioned that when they talk about abortion, they love to just say, reproductive rights for women, women's health care. They don't talk about, one, how it harms women, but two, that it's direct murder. That's what it is. And it's just disheartening to hear. But just know, California Family Council, we are not going anywhere. We are going to continue to be here and stand and push against the evil. And we're going to celebrate the good, because we did see some good things come out of the Capitol this past year. We're working to see some more good things come next year. So we are going to also keep you guys up to date with that. But with that, Greg, you mentioned the Senate Pro Tem, Senator Mike McGuire. I have a little clip of his speech that he gave today, and I want you guys to all firsthand hear it, and that way you don't think that we're just trying to fearmonger anything or make these things up. They're very clear on what they stand for. So let's check that out.
If Washington, D.C. refuses to tackle climate change in the coming 4 years, Mark my word, California will continue to lead as we always have. Because here in the Golden State, we fight to lift up every person, no matter your background, no matter your skin color, who you are, who you love, and how you identify. This is the California way, and let's be crystal clear. We will always stand strong for women and protect safe and unfettered access to reproductive health care and abortion care. Are you ready to go? California, let me hear you. This is the moment.
So you even heard right there, he says we want to protect safe access to reproductive health care and abortion. There's
Abortion,
nothing.
you hear the word he added to it? Abortion care. This is what I was at my church. We had a meeting for youth, not youth. They were young adults, just talking about politics. And one of the things, if you're new to politics, you have to realize the type of language that is used to make something evil sound wonderful, right? They don't come out. Evil is not promoted with language that is obvious. You actually listen to it and you think that the whole point is, how can I be against that? Like abortion care. You add lovely, heartfelt, good, warm and fuzzy words to things that are evil, right? Why do you do that? What do you do? What's wrong with saying abortion? Why do you have to add the word care to it? Because if you really look into what abortion is, everybody knows it isn't very caring looking. It's bloody and brutal, right? And notice how they talk about LGBT, homosexuality, transgenderism. What are they doing? They have a whole philosophy now that your true self, your real identity, is what you feel, right? Your feelings determine everything. There's never a thought to maybe your feelings might be wrong, right? Or you might have some feelings that lie to you, but they seek to deceive. Mm-hmm. And it's been so effective for the simple-minded, for the fool who just simply listens and feels and doesn't do much critical thinking. Like, what does that mean? And that's what you all should be asking when you hear politicians talk. What do they mean by that? Right? Specifically. Don't listen to how wonderful it sounded. What do they actually mean? Because what they mean is very it's hideous when you get into the details. And but they have to cover it over with wonderful sounding smooth language. And so you heard it in that quote, right? That is pure propaganda, right? To cover over, meant to deceive, and so just wanted to point that out.
No, absolutely. And I know when I was watching that live, I literally, my heart broke watching that. And this isn't anything new to me. I know they want to be champions for abortion, for murder of innocent babies. But for him to sit there and say they are going to welcome you no matter what you identify as, that's not safe. First of all, it's not safe for the confused person that's cutting off their healthy body parts, but also it's not safe to be allowing men into women's spaces. We're seeing women being raped in California prisons. We're seeing women being injured, girls being injured in California sports. We are seeing males in women's locker rooms here in California. And then when he mentioned abortion, every single successful abortion ends in the death of one human being, and at least one other human being is left broken. Abortion is anti-woman. Abortion facts literally show that post-abortion, the chances for breast cancer increase in women. The chances of fertility and to get pregnant again decrease. We see suicidal ideation increases post-abortion. There is a lot of harms to a woman's body when they go through an abortion. And then the entire Senate, and I don't want to say the entire Senate because maybe there was a couple people that didn't clap, but you heard the video. If you were watching this on YouTube or you're watching on Facebook, you saw it pan, and the Senate is clapping and cheering for what he said. At the California State Capitol on the Senate floor, they are clapping for the slaughtering of innocent human beings. That is what we're up against. We're up against good versus evil. This is pure evil, and we're here to expose it and let you know, but we're also going to give you ways to push back and stand up against this. Right now, the best way to do that is share this video around, get people informed on what is happening and what's being said. But with that, Greg, earlier you kind of mentioned how the Democrats still have a supermajority. And with their supermajority, that doesn't mean they're just going to be able to pass all the bills they want. There's other things that come from that. And so we had Roger Niello, he's a state senator. He kind of explained today on the floor the issue with this majority and what they do. So let's check out that clip.
Rules of the Senate, and I'm going to read them all in detail. I am just kidding. I'm not going to read them because the way we do business here, the majority power has the ability to waive any rule, and it does happen. And as I said, I often rise to object to that. So again, we're clarifying the fact that we will not have transparency with regard to budget trailer bills, particularly those that deal only with policy. I urge a no vote.
Thank you, Senator. Any further discussion or debate?
So
I'm a little confused about that. They're having a vote about changing some rules, and they had this big policy book and these rules, they have rules until they don't want them anymore, right? And a trailer bill is something, it's like these big bills that are voted on all at once. They usually just have budget items, but now they're going to enable you to put policy in them. And so, but typically policy has to go through committee hearings, public committee hearings where there's debate and you have an opportunity to oppose. So it's just another sneaky way to make changes without having much public scrutiny. And so that's the kind of thing that happens when you have supermajorities. The minority party can point it out, but for most folks, they're not paying attention in detail. And for even those folks who are paying attention in detail, many times things get stuck in these trailer bills that we don't even realize, and then we can't even fight it. And we're the ones trying to. It's hard enough to keep track of bills that are introduced by individual numbers. One thing that did happen this morning was the speaker did mention something, which I think is a good thing. I'm not sure if you know this, but every member of the assembly previously is allowed to introduce, each of them, all 80 of them, can introduce 50 bills in every 2 years. That's 25 bills a year. That's a ton of bills. But he said they're gonna reduce that number to 35. So I think that's a step in the right direction.
absolutely. I think there's too many nonsense bills coming through just because they have the ability to do that. And this was actually a recommendation from Assemblywoman Kate Sanchez down from the Southern California area. So she sent out a tweet today. Good news, excited about that. That's what she was saying in her tweet. So yes, that is good. I don't think they should be having the ability to introduce 50 bills in a 2-year period. And with the amount of bills that are being introduced, you think California would be in a better position because of that, but we're not. So hopefully this gets people to actually put more focus in the legislation and more important ideas. With that, bills that we're already seeing happen and being introduced, abortion. Abortion is, again, a talking point here in California, and we have seen the Attorney General, Rob Bonta. He has proudly stood for the murdering of innocent babies. Him and his wife, Assemblywoman Mia Bonta, have held hands and shouted their abortion, which breaks my heart. They both need healing for that, and what they've gone through, but yet instead they just see it as this right and again shout their abortion. But we saw
just a point on that. When she talked about on the floor of the assembly about her getting an abortion, she said it kept me from poverty. So to simply promote the whole idea that the way to fight poverty is to kill your own children so that they don't cost you money. It's like, wow. I mean, where is that? That's how we're going to pull ourselves out of poverty. We're going to get rid of our children. I mean, that's what she's arguing. I mean, she's got four. I think she's got 4 kids of her own, right? It's like, what are those kids supposed to think? Like, they're probably like, wow, good thing I didn't come at the wrong time, or I might not even be here, right? Good thing you didn't consider me a hit on your financial viability, right? I mean, that was painful to watch. So sorry, I interrupted.
No, I mean, that's such a great point to make. And I think, too, on that point, there is a lot of people that have a child and maybe they're financially stable when they have the child. And then we see the economy crash or things happen, emergencies happen. And now they find themselves struggling to put food on the table. Do they have the right to now kill their 7-year-old because now they found themselves in poverty? That's what that argument that she's making. It's the same thing. It's disgusting and horrible. But these 2 bills, just a quick overview of the idea behind these bills, and this is based off of the Attorney General and what they were introducing on that, is the first one is to safeguard medication abortion. So what is medication abortion? It's a 2-pill process. These pills are being shipped to people's doors. They're extremely harmful to women because it's actually only FDA approved up to 10 weeks, and women have died because they're not having the proper medical examination to see how far along they actually are and all this. But anyways, the 2-step process, it's mifepristone and misoprostol. Mifepristone chemically starves the baby. It stops the woman's production of progesterone, which keeps the baby healthy and alive. Then misoprostol actually induces labor and has the woman then go into labor and basically forces the dead baby's body out of her at 10 weeks. They want to safeguard access to that. The second one would give the California Attorney General's office, so Attorney General Rob Bonta, the authority to bring lawsuits against municipalities that interfere, that's their word, interfere with people's constitutionally protected access to abortion. And so the reason they're talking about this is we've talked about, Greg actually just put an article last week on californiafamily.org on our blog posts about this. We've talked about this immensely, but there was an all-trimester abortion clinic trying to open up in Beverly Hills last summer, or 2 summers ago now, July of 2023. And I was there along other groups, other pro-life people in the state of California, and we stood and protested against it and said that we don't want an all-trimester abortion clinic here in Beverly Hills, and it got shut down. It wasn't allowed to be opened, and so now they're pushing back. So they're making it clear that they're standing for all trimester abortions, abortion up to the moment of birth. Like, these babies are viable outside of the womb, and that's what they're pushing. So those 2 bills were the ideas that were introduced, and so we actually have a video of Assemblywoman Bauer-Kahn talking at the press conference about the meaning of this. But before I play that clip, Greg, is there anything you want to touch on those 2 bills?
Well, just to let you know that this happened this morning, this press conference, to announce these 2 abortion bills. In the first one, safeguarding medical chemical abortion, that was introduced by a brand new legislator. Her name is Maggie Krell, a Democrat out of Sacramento. And then, as you mentioned, Assemblyman-member Rebecca Bauer-Kahn. She's from the Livermore area up here in the Bay Area. She's the one that is making sure the Attorney General can file a lawsuit against any kind of city who would try and keep an abortion clinic out of their district. So, so the clip we're going to show you is what is something horrific that Assembly Member Rebecca Bauerkon said regarding a conversation she had today or recently with her daughter about this bill. And it's just like, oh my gosh. So listen.
I'm Assemblymember Rebecca Bauer-Cahan. I'm the Assembly member from the 16th Assembly District, and I'm also the mother of a 13-year-old girl. When I was sworn in 6 years ago, she was 7. She couldn't bear children, and she didn't know what abortion was. This morning, when I told her what I was doing today, she said, "Make sure they know that nobody should make girls like me have babies." That, my friends, is what girls who are growing up in America today think and feel. And I couldn't be more proud to stand beside our top law enforcement officer in the state and these incredible women colleagues of mine as we enter today at almost parity in the legislature, which we know will change the game for California. We'll be at almost half women, 49%. And we will fight for girls like my daughter and for every single girl and woman in California, because we want them to know that we are fighting for them and their rights. And as this nation continues to try to take our rights away, deny us control of our own futures, we're not having it here in California, and nor is our Attorney General.
That, when I first read the quote before I actually saw the video clip, and gosh, it's disgusting. It's heartbreaking. It's horrible. I mean, why is she not, I believe she said her daughter's 13 now. Why is she not teaching her daughter there's actually a way to prevent yourself from becoming pregnant? No one's forcing you to become pregnant. And if they want to use the issue of rape as their argument, rape is less than 1% of these situations. So you can't argue it for the 99. And, but it just, making her daughter think that, like, is just think that people are forcing young girls to have babies. It breaks my heart. And then she talks about how great it is that there's all these women now in the legislature fighting for this. I'm sorry, I don't need anyone fighting for my right to murder. I don't want the right to murder. We don't need the right to murder. And I don't have to worry about having to murder because there's a way to make sure you don't have an unplanned pregnancy. Everyone knows how the birds and the bees work. It's not like you're walking on the street and someone coughs on you and now you caught the flu and now you're pregnant. That's not how this works. So it's disgusting. It's disgusting that they're telling her, she's having this conversation with her daughter, telling her daughter, are you proud of me for this pro-abortion legislation that I'm introducing? Are you glad no one's going to force you to have a child? I can't imagine having a mother that would fill you with those lies and fear and deceit. It breaks my heart.
You know, it's a reflection of the human nature. Like, I heard it, I don't know who the quote was, but it's something to the fact that we should never be shocked by how human beings have the ability to rationalize away their behavior. I mean, she was getting emotional because she has convinced herself that she's fighting for her daughter's rights, while she's arguing that her daughter and all mothers have a right to kill other girls before they make it out. I mean, her daughter's life did not begin when the daughter was born. She knows. She felt her daughter in her womb. That was her daughter. We all started inside our mothers. We didn't exist once we made it outside and were born. So what are you talking about? You're advocating killing girls. How is that advocating for girls? Right? I mean, you are advocating. It's and you think, wow, that's the level of human deception that is possible. You know, and you got to pray for someone like that their eyes would be opened, right? That they would see the darkness, right? I mean, how does darkness really happen in the world? We always like, wow, how did the world get so evil? Well, you got to lie to yourself. And you got to make yourself feel wonderful about doing the evil thing, right? That's how you do evil things, is you make yourself out to be a hero. So much so that you will cry and get all emotional about how good you are and how proud you are of your daughter who considers abortion and babies to be like such a horrific thing that it would be, so wow. But that's what you have to deal with, and that kind of sin, we are all vulnerable to it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you see that kind of thing, you don't you point it out, but you realize, heck, I'm vulnerable to that too. Lord, keep me from sin. Keep me from excusing my own sin. And thank the Lord, God opened our eyes and Jesus came and died for that kind of sin. But he is here to open people's eyes, right? And so, Lord, help us. Lord, you folks, pray for us up here as we try to talk about abortion to folks like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you got any great, we can have all the greatest arguments in the world and we want to use them, but you got to pray for hearts to be open to listen to them as well.
Absolutely. And with that, if you are feeling like, how can I get involved? How can I make a difference? Again, as soon as these bills are officially introduced and they get hearing dates, we're going to start giving you guys all that information. It's in our newsletter. It's on our social media. Follow our Instagram, follow our Twitter, follow our Facebook, share the post, do all of that. But also on March 31st, 2025, we are having the 5th annual California March for Life at the state capitol. So you now have about 4 months to figure out how you're going to get up to the state capitol, whether you only have to drive 30 minutes, whether you have to get a flight, whatever it is. But we need these legislators that are shouting abortion to know that there are Californians that are pro-life, and there are thousands of us. And so we've had, in the past couple of years, we've had 2,000 show up. I would love to see 5,000 to 10,000 of you all there. So Monday, March 31st, the California March for Life. Go to californiafamily.org. You'll see our page about the March for Life. We already have information out. We have hotel room blocks at a discounted rate out. We have a full day schedule already set. So get there, get ready to make a stance. And also, again, we are going to keep you updated on how to get involved. We're going to get you that information easily, but that means we need you all to then use it and to get involved and to make the phone calls. And so, Greg, as you were kind of just speaking about pray for us having these conversations and getting involved, a lot of you listening might think, well, I don't want to say anything because it's going to upset my family, or I might lose a friend, or things like that. And I saw the Bonhoeffer movie this weekend, and he was a pastor, a theologian during the Holocaust times, and he spoke out during it. And so he had a really good quote in the movie, and he actually lost his life due to standing up against the evil of Hitler. But he said in the movie, not to speak is to speak, not to act is to act, and silence in the face of evil is evil itself. And that was convicting for me, and such a great reminder that if we know the truth, if we have the truth, if we know there's evil happening on and we choose to stay silent in the face of evil, it is evil itself. So use your voice, be bold, stand for what's right, call your legislators, urge them to vote a certain way. We'll keep you all up to date on how to do that. But with that, Greg, any final words?
Yeah, I mean, as bills are now going to start to be introduced slowly at first, and then they'll come at rapid succession starting in January and February. So we have a watch list on our website that I just cleared it off of all the stuff from last year. So right now it's blank, but as the bills are introduced, we'll be putting them up there, the bills that we're concerned about. I'm sure the ones that we talked about today will be listed there with their numbers. You'll find out when the hearing dates are. That's how you stay in touch. And as those hearing dates come forward, that's when we need you to make phone calls and to speak up and share those with your neighbors. So stay in tune.
Yes, and with that, we will see you all next time.